Welcome, guys, to the first episode of Answers Only with me and Amit, and our very first special guest is Mr. Joseph Belanca, aka Joey B. How you doing, Joey B?
I'm doing great today, and I want to thank you guys for the opportunity. I know in this time period, all of us are trying to find a reason to be in connection with each other, and I'm glad that I have the opportunity to be able to help you guys out today. Looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. This is something we've been thinking about a long time, and we wanted you to be our special guest for the first episode, so works out best for the both of us.
Had to be you.
Excellent.
Had to be. All right, so let's just get right into it. So how are you holding up, man? How do you think your family's holding up? How do you think everything's going on so far?
Well, there's a lot of layers to this. Certainly, when this hit the second week in March, and the reality became you guys can't come back into school for a little while, I think everyone thought 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, whatever it's going to be. Not sure that anybody actually planned for you ain't coming back at all this year, and we're starting to talk about summer and maybe next fall. So I think that as this evolves and as this grows, we're all trying to deal with it in our own way. For everyone that's watching us that has not been trapped in Western New York for the last 2 months, the fact that we had some pretty bad weather did not contribute a whole lot to, I guess, the vibe and the feel in the house. But in the last couple of days, I think the corner is turning in a lot of ways. I'm adjusting to homeschooling my kids. I'm adjusting to the idea that I can actually go outside, take the dog for a walk and not wear a winter coat right now. And certainly, I think the really important thing for us has been establishing routines. The routine for me pretty much is I get up at 7:30, I do an hour and a half of schoolwork, I help my daughters with their schoolwork, and then by the time we're at lunchtime, we can do what we want to for the rest of the day. But it took a long time for us really to get into that kind of rhythm of how do we all kind of fulfill our professional obligations and also the school obligations that the kids have.
Yeah, definitely. How do you think the kids are adjusting to this, and have you had conversations with them and their parents as well, or nothing?
I've had more conversations with kids than I have had with parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm out and about in the neighborhood, and I've got kids that I teach in 11th grade. 2 doors down from me, I've got a kid that I teach in 11th grade. And we've been holding once a week meetings with the AP students for the last 2 months, and once every 2 weeks with everyone else. And we're getting pretty good participation, pretty good turnout in those meetings. The kids that really weren't doing a whole lot of work throughout the course of the year have not really connected with us in the last couple of months. But the kids who have been pretty responsible about getting their work done have been there the entire way with us. And a lot of what I'm feeling is what I'm hearing from them also. Just, man, this stinks. I can't work out.
Oh, yeah.
I can't play spring sports. I can't do this and this. I just think this is an entire graduating class, an entire junior class that will not experience the actual ceremony of walking across the stage,
Mm-hmm.
that will not experience prom or ball or some of those milestone things. And I've even been wondering, because I've taught juniors forever, being 17, there's certain checkpoints in your life, like taking your road test. And I just wonder, so many of those things have been interrupted right now. But I'd like to think from what I'm seeing right now, that everyone is still trying to put a good face on this and a good spin on this and trying to hang in there and just appreciate what they can do right now and not really dwell on what they can't do.
Yeah, and Joey B, you have 2 very young daughters. I was curious, how is it working now? Because when you're a father with 2 young daughters, you want them to go outside, experience what's going on.
Yeah.
How have you been transitioning, fathering them now at this time period?
Well, I got to tell you, and thank you for the question. My daughters are in 4th grade and 2nd grade. We've been at that point where this would normally be. Bus shows up at 7 o'clock, brings you back home at 2:25 in the afternoon, and that's all gone right now. On the one hand, for me, it's been kind of challenging. I haven't done 4th grade math in about 35 years. And I'm trying to kind of coach my daughter through 4th grade math right now in this process. But the outdoors aspect is so important right now. We've been trying to build in that there are at least 3 required exercise times every single day that you have to accomplish. That could be a scooter, it could be a walk, it could be a bike ride, it could be we drive somewhere. We've been going to Owaka Creek Park in Scottsville. We've been driving down to Paper Mill Falls and Avon, which is fantastic, both for social distancing and for what's actually available. But that's really been a challenge, is making sure that our kids are getting enough physical activity. I don't think they appreciated how active you actually are during a school day, when you're
Definitely,
in a
yeah.
classroom, when you're doing
Yeah.
different things, and it's walking back and forth between places. It's the energy that you burn talking with your friends. And not having that around right now, what we've been trying to do is make sure that there's those required things that have to happen every day to keep them physically active.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you think the whole going back to like kids in school, high school, college, even, how do you think that pass fail thing is turning out to be? And what do you think going forward should be the next step?
Well, I got to tell you, a lot of what is happening right now is very, very new. And in fact, we've had some changes actually in the last 24 hours about how we're supposed to be grading things. I think that we really have lowered the standards significantly.
Mhm.
And that if you really are willing to do just a little bit, we're going to find a way for everyone to get through and move on. If you're a junior, become a senior. If you're a senior, you get to move on and go to college. Um, there are times where I feel a little bit dirty, like I'm kind of watering down the course that I teach, because I'm putting lessons together today with my good friend Mr. Nuds for U.S. history, and the things that I would otherwise be teaching, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush. An 80-minute lesson is difficult to boil down to uh, a paragraph reading and a couple questions you
Mhm.
got to answer afterwards. Because obviously, you guys know from being in the classroom with me, a lot of what we do in there is based on the communication that goes on back and forth, either from me directly to you or me being able to check up on what you're doing on a regular basis.
Mhm.
And I'm missing that. I can't look over the shoulder of a kid doing their work right now. I can't tell if the answer to question number 3 is correct until you submit it 2 weeks from now. And those are the types of things that I think are challenging in terms of us as teachers trying to push out instruction. But I think the school district has done what is probably the most responsible thing in this entire process, which is there are certain minimum things that you have to do if we're going to award you course credit, and we're not going to overload you at this point.
Mhm.
We've been given the directive that we are not allowed to give more than 2 hours of work per course per week.
Mhm.
Because think about it, and high school kids are taking 6 or 7 courses right now, and if everyone's piling that work on, it's going to seem like an
Yeah.
actual school day when we don't have the opportunity to provide feedback. We don't have an opportunity to quiz on a daily basis and really check in with what we're doing. So even though it seems like kind of a minimum standard, I think our school district has been very responsible in what they've asked us as teachers to do and how we're actually recording that progress. It is a little bit different. There is no such thing as a quarter 3 grade or a quarter 4 grade.
Yeah.
What is pass? What does fail mean? And looking at the language that we have right now, it pretty much is pass means you did what we asked you to do at like the lowest level of proficiency. Fail,
Definitely.
Yeah.
you turned it in, it was terrible. And then there's always that incomplete that's out there, which means you didn't even try the darn thing in the first place. I think we've tried to really create a structure in which we want to do the most responsible thing for the most kids, and that's make sure that everyone gets a step closer to what they want to do next year, and we don't let this or the procedure or the disease get in the way.
Yeah, definitely. So me and Amit were also having a conversation on how colleges are handling this. So Amit, let us know how UB is handling this as compared to what I'm going through with RIT.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So the tough thing with UB is like it's all online, obviously, and there's been like a complete disconnect with the professors. And pretty much, I feel like I'm on an island doing my own thing now. I got the textbook. They tell you do your work, and then like get to do this time. And sure, they've been lenient, saying okay, you can do a week late. Here's some extra credit, and that's nice. But like, I feel like this at this point in college is the least I've ever learned. At least before in classrooms, I felt like I was getting something from the teachers. But now it's like, okay, let me just get this turned in at time. Let me go back in bed and lay down. I just feel like I'm just trying to pass this course, and it's a little frustrating as a student. I don't know how
Yeah,
RIT's treating it.
Yeah, same
it
thing
might
with
be
me.
similar or not.
RIT has been kind of lenient as well, letting us know. A good thing for me, I've had good professors this semester, so they've been very lenient. They took out some assignments, throw in some easy assignments, so it helped boost our grades. And I know some friends in RIT that actually failed some courses because of online, and they were just like, we were not prepared for
Yeah.
this. We didn't pay for this, but it is what it is. They can't do anything else above this. So it's something that they just had to write out. And so you just have to feel bad for them because obviously no one signed up for this, but everyone has to go through it.
Right. And what I was curious about was the difference between like college and high school is I feel like college with professors, you're much more disconnected. I feel like high school, inside and outside the classroom, depends on the face-to-face time with high school
Yeah.
teachers. So Joey B, I was curious for like going forward in the fall semester, do you think how like the high school is handling it currently is like just like the standard, this is how it's going to be next semester, and also going forward if this like scarily like continues, or is there something you'd like to see change, maybe implement a new like method of teaching if we're
Right.
going online Zoom university?
Yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about in that question right there, and if you'll give me a couple minutes, I'll try to go through all those things.
Of course.
First of all, what I want more than anything else is to get back to what school has always looked like throughout the duration of my career, and that is 20 plus kids show up, they sit in a desk in my classroom, and we get that face-to-face interaction. We develop that routine of, we're going to meet every other day, you've got homework, I'm going to grade that work and do things back and forth. And one of the things that I guess we're going to have to come to grips with is what will actually be the standard that allows us to do that. Because if you guys know, obviously, and you've been watching the same news that I have, in the middle of March, it was flatten the curve, flatten the curve.
Mhm.
And once we do that, we get to a place where we can worry about not social distancing, we can open things back up again. And now that the curve has been flattened, I feel like the goal line has been moved a little bit. Because now they're talking about we can't do this until we have testing and tracing and all those different things. And it's got a lot of us talking about, again, that idea of what the physical building looks like for us at Rush Henrietta, or for you at UB and RIT. What does the physical building look like? Are we going to require that classrooms are going to have students 8 feet apart wearing face masks if we go
Mhm.
back in September? And if that's the case, then I can only have, from a geographic standpoint, maybe 8 to 10 kids per class in my room. So does it mean that you show up, Fahad, on A days and Amit shows up on B days, and we have to stagger it in some way? And I got to tell you, I don't want to be involved in putting that schedule together to try to figure out to make that work.
Yeah.
I think we're learning an awful lot about what the capabilities of online things are and what they aren't. And keep in mind, like, we're doing this right now. Like, we have the opportunity, like, we've got the free time, we have the technology, we have the availability to do this stuff. I have maybe a dozen students that I've had no contact with whatsoever since we left on March 13th. And for some of them, and as silly as this might actually seem to those of us in the connected world, there are people that, honest to goodness, don't have wireless internet access. They don't
Mhm.
have a device to actually do this thing that we're doing right now. And there is something to the idea of us having to physically meet in person. One of the other things, and this is maybe going a little bit off of the conversation a little bit, is that what we know as teachers is that for a lot of the kids that we teach, we are the most responsible adults that our students see on a daily basis. When they leave us and they go back into their own homes, there's obviously, a difference in what that looks like.
Yeah.
We are where breakfast and lunch happens. It's where your friends are. It's safe for 8 hours when you're in our building right now.
Mhm.
And not everyone has that opportunity when they leave the school doors. So for those reasons, I really hope that we are going to get the go ahead in September to do what I've always known as school. But again, I think we're going to find out in the next maybe 2 to 4 weeks. Phase one, phase two, phase three. What's essential? Do we see a spike in cases in our region? Does it continue to go down? And we've got to be conscious also of what neighboring states are doing too. Just because we're in a good position doesn't mean that Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, because you can cross the border, nobody's stopping you at the state line right there. So I think there's a lot of things that are in play, and I'm not I'm not elected to public office, and I don't ever want to be in a position to have to make these decisions. But I think without question, there's going to be a reconsideration of what the physical building of school means going forward, and at least the opening of the conversation of, do we have to have an 8-hour school day for high school students? Because you guys know in college, and you pick off the menu, and if you're savvy enough, I'm going to be in class for 3 hours on Monday and 1 hour on Tuesday, and I'm going to have my Fridays off and have a long weekend. And I think we're all going to have to start to ask the question, have what we've been doing forever that we considered normal, is that really what we need to be doing going forward?
Mm-hmm. And going into the looking at the kids aspect, already kids this generation, including us, have kind of taken a back step on social interactions like one-on-one and things like that. So how do you think that kids are gonna be after this situation, already being so distant from everybody and putting onto that more, like social media and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question also, and that's certainly something that I've experienced throughout the course of my career and has accelerated in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, you guys, obviously, you live in the world, and you know that everyone of your generation, and your generation can be, I don't know, 15 to 25, whatever age range you want to talk about, always completely plugged in, dependent on a device for the thing that happens next. There is no such thing as breaking news anymore, because you found out about it 18 seconds ago, and then my device is too slow. There's no such thing as news anymore. And I'm hopeful that the physical separation that we've all had from each other is going to really lead people to appreciate how good it is to actually be in proximity with somebody else. I don't have a lot of that going on. We've got a family a couple houses down that we've pretty much said, you're healthy and we're healthy, and our kids are going to play together, and we're planning the Memorial Day cookout and stuff like that. But it, for me personally, has placed a higher emphasis on being in physical proximity with somebody, having the conversation from 6 feet away instead of us doing through a screen right now. I don't know if that's going to translate to a lot of the kids that I teach, because they've kind of grown up on this idea of, my friends are always accessible to me in this particular way right here. Obviously, that's all you have right now. But I'd like to think that this is going to create really the influence for a lot of people to say, yeah, I do want to actually go see somebody again. Instead of, hey, dude, what are you watching tonight? What are you streaming tonight? I just like to think that there's going to come a point in which we say being in actual contact with somebody is still a really important thing. I mean, we are, as human beings, social animals. I mean, I'm on the phone, I feel like, for hours a day with teachers that I work with guys that I coach, just kind of checking in and saying, how you holding up and whatever. But not to be able to give the fist bump or the whatever it's wearing on me a little bit. And I'm hoping that it will take people in, I guess, a generation younger than me, maybe to press pause for a second and realize that there is something about physically being in proximity with somebody else that's good.
So do you think that social media, let's make this a broad question, do you think social media has benefited the younger generation more, or not really?
In the broad sense, I'm going to say yes. Because in the broad sense, what I'm going to say about social media and how it has benefited your generation is that you have the unlimited ability to access information, knowledge, and opinions that didn't exist before this. And again, I think about being a student, and a high school student or a college student or a teenager in the dinosaur era. In which the communications device I had was a phone that was attached to the wall in my kitchen. And if I dialed your number, and by dialed I mean I'm pushing buttons into a phone and I'm standing there holding this thing like this, if you didn't pick up, I don't know where the hell you are. I think accessibility is a great thing, and the access to knowledge and learning is a great thing. Of course, it comes with the caveat of, is it credible? Is it reliable? Do you only go to places that tell you what you want to hear? And to give you just an example of it, it's not social media, but I think it fits in the same category. Our remote broke for the downstairs TV, and I'm talking direct TV, and I'm like, I'm trying to change channels and whatever, and it was locked for 8 consecutive days on Fox News. So for 8 consecutive days, if I turn the TV on, the only thing I'm getting all day long is Tucker Carlson going crazy, Sean Hannity going crazy at 9 o'clock. And it got me to the point, I'm like, wow, this is the only thing I'm hearing all the time. It must be right, because everyone has the same talking points. So there couldn't possibly be another version of this story. And that, I think, is what one of the dangers is. If you get your news from only one place, only one source, or if you're just kind of locked into one thing, then I think that can be the danger. But social media is designed, I think, at its core to connect people in ways that they can't otherwise connect. Yeah, my goodness. I mean, when you're posting something on whatever platform you are right now, the person reading it is halfway around the world if you allow that to happen. And that's a great thing. We've always felt like the way that we spread the true genius of American capitalism, of American democracy, is to give people more access to it. And when you get a chance to access that and realize, wow, these guys halfway around the world, they got it pretty good right now. That connection back and forth, I think, is the real power that social media has. So beyond the just make sure you know where you're getting your information from, I think it's an incredibly powerful tool to keep all of us sane during this time period.
Yeah, definitely. Very interesting. My main thing with social media, though, like, it's nice to stay connected, but I agree. I definitely miss like the physical interaction, just being with my friends. And like, I've done a lot of times just reminiscing, thinking about high school, early college, just being with my people. And it's just made me think of volleyball too, especially just being with the team.
Yeah.
I've had so much time just to think about the boys, think about coach, just all the fun we've had.
Yeah.
And I was really interested to pick your brain about like our season together, our senior year thoughts. I gotta know. Right off the bat, I gotta know. Before the season even started, before we played Brockport in the first game, what were your expectations? Like, were you expecting us to go 2-18? Like, what were you thinking?
Well, first of all, let's dial it back a second and say that the season for me didn't start with Brockport. It started, with training camp before that, and it started 2 days before training telling me that he wasn't going to play. And when you kind of, as a coach, go into a season, you've got in your head about wanting to build an offense, and clearly, this is going to be one of the vital pieces in the offense. Just kind of saying, you know what, I'm not going to do it this year. That was, a punch to the gut, to be certain. It was very clear on day number 1, 2, 3, pick whatever you want right now, that you guys didn't have enough offensive firepower to hang in the division that we play in. If we could go out to Genesee County or Livingston County, you guys would have been able to hang no problem. But the league that we play in is so good and so demanding that you've got to have 3 or 4 offensive weapons, or you're not even trying throughout the course. And we didn't have that. We didn't have that in 2016. You guys, and I admit, you played on a team in 2015 that had weapons all over the place. Had weapons, and again, this is not to denigrate any of you guys in any possible way, but
definitely not. Yeah.
If you don't have a guy that's automatic side out, then you really struggle in the league we play in. And I knew it was going to be tough. I didn't know it was going to be rough. The Brockport match was rough. And it was rough. And I remember looking at the schedule and thinking, the firewall is this match right here. And it might have been at Churchville. It might have been whatever the firewall was. And when we went and got swept, it was okay. The firewall didn't hold up. So what's next? What I will tell you, and I talked to Fahad, you and I talked about this on the phone the other day, and I perfectly clear to both you guys and to anybody that wants to watch this. I don't know if I've ever had more fun with a team than you guys. Played every day against you guys. It's like the numbers worked out correct, that there was always a need for an outside hitter or a setter or for whoever, and Kinsman's around, and that interaction is something that I've really never had with the team before. Fahad, you and I were probably the two that were closest together because I was
Yeah, definitely.
against you. And as much as I want to tell Maduka, all right, now, dude, Oaks is going to tip right behind me right now. Just stand on the sideline on the 10-foot line and pick the thing. And he's always late on it. My God, like, dude, this isn't rocket science right here. He's got 2 swings. He's going to swing crossbar and tip right over me right now. And
I can relate so much. When he used to be on my side, I used to tell him every time, like, Lenny's going to do some fake set over, just be ready. And he was never ready.
Not once. And, those things, when I think back, it reminds me so much that coaching high school sports is about the relationship that you develop with players, the relationship that players develop with each other. And, okay, we went 2-19. And would anybody throw away the 2? I mean, my goodness, down 2-0. With the funny stuff going on in the stands right there, and all of a sudden,
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, you guys are going to play right now. I wouldn't throw those 2 away, and I'll tell you, it was ugly a couple times when we went. We played Penfield 3 times.
Oh God, I don't want anyone to talk about Penfield.
It was ugly every time. Yeah. But yeah, I have so much respect, and I want this to be very, very clear also. As a teacher, I'm around high school athletes that play other sports all the time. And you know what it's like at the end of October when the football team's not going well or the soccer team's not going well. And you talk with these guys and these girls. And that attitude of, man, I can't wait for this to be over. And I never felt like that with you guys. Like, it was.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
We get to show up again tomorrow. That's awesome. Let's continue to go do that. And, as silly as it is, and this is, I'm not trying to beat my chest at all in any ways. I've had great teams and I've had not so great teams, and I've been given awards and whatever. I feel like the best coaching jobs I've ever done in my life are with the least talented teams that I've had. Yeah, find a reason to continue to show up every single day and try to get better individually and as a team. Being great is easy. Knowing that you're going to go out there and blow somebody out. I've had 2 teams like that in 40 seasons that I've coached. That's easy stuff. But getting guys to not have that attitude of, man, I got to go to practice for 2 hours again today. This sucks. You guys showed up every day and wanted to get better. And that's really a testament to the senior leadership that was on that team. You guys, obviously, part of that. Jason Rogers was a part of that. Oh, yeah,
definitely.
But that really is something that I'll always believe about that team. And not for nothing, that team we beat twice, they canceled their program the next year.
I wanted to talk about this. We're taking credit for that. We put them out.
Drove those guys out of the league. Good for you.
We did it, man. So I think what really transpired was it kind of turned into a brotherhood, and like it was so much fun to show up every single day and just try to get better, try to get better and just be there for each other. And I think we did that really well that season. And it was just a lot of fun for us.
I remember talking about you guys, especially with Kinsman throughout the course of that year. And again, Kinsman played at a very, very high level in college and saw some great volleyball in her life. And I just remember thinking, I like these guys so much that I dread sometimes having to take them into tomorrow's match. We can show up and have a great practice and practice as well as we can for 2 hours, and we're going to Victor tomorrow. And it's not going to be a whole lot of fun for anybody that's wearing a Victor jersey.
Oh, no.
But again, a credit to you guys, and you use the word brotherhood, and I'm so glad to hear that word. Is that idea of being a family together is what I've always tried to inspire and encourage in the kids that I coach.
Definitely no. And I think like just the toughest part, not to be too negative, was I hated like being complacent and like getting used to losing. Because me and Fahad, we're naturally competitive guys. If we're playing pickup basketball, we want to win. Don't matter. We're playing 2K, don't matter. So let alone a competitive sport, a sport that we love, we want to win. So it was frustrating going in 3 weeks in, like, okay, let's just go through the motions and then we'll just see what happens in the end. But that being said, like going to practice every single day was like my highlight,
Oh,
especially for senior year. I
definitely.
loved it. Just seeing my guys, seeing coach, it was insane, so much fun. But the one thing, going back to what you said, you were like nervous to going into a game for us just to see us get beat up. Fahad, I need to hear your reaction again about when you heard we're playing Penfield for the first time. We all
Okay.
knew they were the big dogs in New York State, and you had no idea because you were new to volleyball. What's going through your head?
This story I will never forget. So I think it was we played Penfield's second or third game of the season. I don't remember.
Yep.
But everybody was like, "Oh, it's Penfield. It's gonna be rough." I'm like, "Yeah, with that attitude, it is gonna be rough. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be okay." It was my first year playing volleyball. I had no idea what Penfield was all about. And we get there. First of all, the first sign was they had cut off jerseys. I'm like, okay, this is not gonna be good.
They're good.
And then we get there. I'm like, okay, we're okay. And then we start the match. And I think 2 or 3 minutes pass. I look up at the scoreboard. It was like 22-4 or something. I'm like, I should have listened to everybody maybe. They were probably right. This didn't go so well.
Well, I got to tell you, there's very, very few competitive experience I've had like that one. And if you're remembering, it was the second match of the year, and we got beat 25-6 in the first set. And I got to tell you, I don't know if I had ever been single-digited by somebody before that in the arc of my coaching career at every level. And then they did the responsible thing, which is pull all the starters and put the second team in. And the second team was hungrier because they don't get a chance to play that much, and they did 25-3 in the second set. And I'm looking around going, are we really down 50-9 right now in this? This is crazy.
Oh, my goodness.
Almost every other sport has some way of calling that off, whether it's a mercy rule in softball, whether it's like a TKO in boxing. It's called this off, man. You got beat 75-15 in 3 sets against them, and I've got to be the guy that puts a good face on this afterwards. And say, well,
Yeah.
And the good face is you scored 15 points in 3 sets the first time. You scored 38 points in 3 sets the second time. Progress.
There you go.
35-13 every game. But yeah, we weren't kidding you, man, when we said this is Penfield, the real deal.
Should have listened, But even going back to that, like, knowing that we got beat that bad and then everybody shows up next day in practice ready to go, like it was a brotherhood since the start and everyone was ready to go the next day. And I could say, like, people did make side comments about, like, I remember me and Amit used to talk, people talking about volleyball team is bad. We used to just take it right in the chin, like, okay, we're having fun, we don't really care, and we're trying to get better. Like, this is what it is. It's all right if we're losing, but for putting out 110% every single day, and I think we were okay with that.
Yep, and I'm glad to hear that, because I know it is a difficult thing, because you guys obviously are friends with people in school that know what's going on. They're on other teams. Boys soccer had a great year that year.
Yeah.
There's how wild was that, walking out of practice and watching them come against Victor in the rain in that day. That was awesome to watch.
That was, yeah.
And it doesn't always go that way for every team. Doesn't mean though that you're not working hard and you're not trying to get better. So. I'm glad that you guys appreciated that and were able to to carry yourself with that dignity.
And going back, I wanted to talk about this for the longest time, and I've never asked you ever. What happened in your mind when that Hilton incident took place? I don't think we've talked about this in a long dialogue. When that took place, what went through your mind?
Well.
Because I can tell you, me and Amit were ready to throw haymakers. We were ready to go. We were mad.
Well, first of all, you got to understand that I'm approaching this from the perspective of, Jesus, guys, you're down 2 sets to none against this team. All right, that's the first thing I'm thinking right there.
Yeah.
Before we get into any of the stuff, the funny stuff that was happening in the stands, you flat out played bad for 2 sets. So here's a really, really bad opponent thinking, we got somebody right now. They've got fans that showed up and figured this might be the first time we see anybody do anything good. And they got after Glendy pretty good. And you guys, what I will say is that you guys rallied around the situation. You weren't playing well enough. You knew that you were playing an opponent that was not that good, and the environment sucked. You know, there were hateful stuff coming out of the stands, directed at you guys,
Mhm.
and you rallied as a group of guys around each other. And that really is, I think, again, a tremendous credit to who you guys were. Yeah, I know what was going on the court on our side. I know what was going on in the stands. I don't condone everything going on our
Yeah.
side of the court, but whatever it takes to get guys fired up and to play better. You know, if you need to, throw the bird at somebody in the stands, that's fine.
Oh, definitely. I
But,
think I had to hold Glendy back after that because he was ready to go.
He was
well,
heated. He was fired up. Yep.
and again, that's the thing, is that I've a couple of times in my coaching career been in a spot in which I felt like a situation could escalate
Mhm.
beyond, we're just going to play back and forth and see who scores more points right here. And that certainly was one of those moments. And you guys did the responsible thing, which is go out there and just play and win.
Mhm.
And you rolled them in sets 3, 4, and 5. I felt like, a combination of a righteous anger because you walked into an environment that was pretty crappy.
Mhm.
There was an anger about how you guys have been playing up to that point. And for 3 sets that night, you guys were phenomenal. You played the absolute highest level that you guys were capable of playing at. And you did so again, because you rallied around each other. You supported a teammate.
Definitely, yeah.
You kind of got excited about the fact that this environment is hostile right now, and it's just us right now. And we can't look to anybody else. The officials aren't going to do anything. The crowd's not going to back off.
Mhm.
The supervisors aren't going to step in. It's just us on the court right now. And we have to make the decision that we're going to be tougher than this.
I think when we went down to Zip, like right after we were walking down back to our bench, me and Amit just kind of looked at each other like, "There's no way we're about to be swept by Hilton. That we can't." We even joked about it before the game, like through our text messages. Oh, like what if we get swept by Hilton? And we were on the verge of being swept by Hilton.
I'll tell you a story, and it's a couple years before. Admit it would have been your sophomore year, which I think was my first year back in 2014 when I had your brother.
Yeah.
And I remember coming back, telling them in the beginning of the year, because they had gone 2-19 the previous year, and they had beaten Canandaigua in 5 sets. And Canandaigua was awful.
Yeah.
Were at the time. They've had a very good record the last couple of years, but at the time they were one of the bottom feeders in the league. And I remember talking tough in training camp and saying, "There's no way in hell that you're going 5 with Canandaigua. If you do, I'm going to lock you guys in the bus and I'll set fire to the bus." And I'm talking in that kind of language. And son of a gun, don't we go to Canandaigua and have to go nuts with them? And everyone's kind of looking around going, "Coach, well, I don't have lighter fluid in my bag right now. We'll talk about this when we actually get home." And it wound up working out, but sometimes you talk tough and have to regret a little bit what it is that you said. I mean, Fahad obviously got back at those guys in tennis.
Oh yeah,
17 with knocking that kid out of the match. That still remains.
I didn't mean it. Everyone on the team was like, "You did it on purpose." Like, how could I do this on purpose?
And that honestly, that's the truest thing that I told their coach was, if you gave him that ball 100 times and said, "Hit the eyeball," missing every time. There's no one hitting the ball right now. I think in the history of Section 5 sports, that is the only knockout that I've ever.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Let's go in the history books.
Man.
I'm the history books, man. The infamous knockout. The kid was okay. I didn't know until I hit him when I heard it was so I didn't even see him, and he was down, like he was out. I'm like, something bad and I saw it in the corner of my eye. I saw you running along the fence. I'm like, okay, this is really bad now.
When you hear that sound from 3 courts away, it's unmistakable, and it was. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if you ever hit a watermelon with a baseball bat, but that's pretty much what that sound was. And that's not good on a tennis court.
So did you just get like a knockout win, Fahad?
Oh, yeah. Knockout. Done. He didn't even play.
This is like KO victory.
KO victory,
wow. That's crazy.
Oh, talking about sports, man, this is just insane. So I know you've been watching The Last Dance.
Yep.
What do you think about the leadership style of the Michael Jordan?
Well,
What do you think?
I'm going to tell you, obviously, that we're looking at pro athletes. We're not
Mhm.
looking at college and high school
Yeah.
athletes. And I think that's an important, really first distinction to understand, because Jordan and that style on a high school team doesn't work in any possible way.
Yeah.
Um, but there's also a reason that when you hear stories about, um, whether it's Jordan, whether it is um, Tiger Woods at the height of his
Mhm.
career, um, you can appreciate the greatness that they had. What's always difficult, and I wanted to mention Larry Bird in this in just a second for a different reason.
Mhm.
Um, Jordan obviously is the greatest player that I've ever seen in my life.
Mhm.
Now you can put this generation's guys up there. We can argue back and forth, and that's always fun.
Yeah.
Because my dad will talk about Kareem or Wilt Chamberlain, and I never saw
Mhm.
those guys play live, and I can't do that comparison. But this is what I saw in front of me, and this is the best player I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Um, what is difficult sometimes is to have them, and throw Kobe in this mix also,
Mhm.
um, so demanding of themselves, so demanding of perfection of themselves, that at times there's an unwillingness to accept the fact that the people around you just aren't as good as you are.
Yeah.
Like, dude, how'd you turn that ball over right there? Well, the interesting thing has been when they did the John Paxson episode,
Mhm.
when him against the Suns in '93, or Steve Kerr being open in '97 and '98. The willingness to trust that your teammates that you know are not as talented as you, but if I get them the ball in the right situation, they're going to do their job too. That really was kind of one of the big takeaways I've had from watching this whole thing, is that Jordan, the arc of his career was, I can score 60 every night if I want to, but I
Mhm.
can't win unless I can bring these guys along with me and do those things. And the only reason that I'm mentioning Bird here, and Magic would fit in this career also, because after Magic was done playing, he coached the Lakers for
Yeah.
3 weeks or whatever it was before they realized he can't coach. Bird went from being the best player in the league to then being an absolutely phenomenal coach afterwards too. I mean, those Reggie
Mhm.
Miller teams in the late '90s with the
Yeah.
Pacers are legendary. Um, and that's a really difficult thing, because when I think about the great, great, great players that I've ever had, I don't think any of them would turn out to be a good coach, because there is something about, this wasn't that easy for me. And therefore, I have to instruct and appreciate that people are going to make mistakes in this process as they try to get better. Whereas I look around the league, Penfield, Victor, Fairport, none of these guys were superstar players when they played. And I think there's something about that idea that makes Bird a little bit unique for me in that discussion about great player turns into great coach. But it really has been a treat. For me, it's a walk down memory lane. You and I talked on the phone a couple of days
Yeah.
ago. I was at peak sports at that point. In
Mhm.
'98 when they won the title, I was 22 years old. I am watching every baseball, basketball, football game at every possible level, college and pro. I'm watching NASCAR. I'm watching golf.
Oh.
Sports. And it really has taken me back to a place where, yeah, Gary Payton in '96, Hornacek, Stockton, and Malone in '97 and '98. And that was the wheelhouse of sport for me. And I didn't appreciate any of the stuff going on in this documentary when it was happening. I didn't know the amount of tension. I don't remember Jerry Krause talking about how we're not going to bring Phil back and we're going to blow this
Yeah.
whole thing up. I don't remember any of that stuff. I just
Mhm.
remember watching the games. And the games were must-see TV, without a question.
Yeah, just watching the documentary, just seeing the pure domination of one player having on a whole team. I don't think we've seen that like ever, and I don't think we'll ever see that, because I don't think players today would respond well to that leadership style. And
I agree.
granted, I don't think anyone would want to play like that. Like looking back, he got the job done, 6-0 in the finals, so you can't really say or knock on him for being that way.
And again, we're talking about this a couple of days ago. there's that famous scene in the movie Miracle in which they play the game in Norway and they tie, and Herb Brooks keeps him out there on the ice and just sends him down and back and down and back. And for a lot of us that are coaching right now, we grew up playing for coaches like that. That were hard as nails, that did not really cultivate the relationship, that were dictators on the court or whatever field or wherever it is that you played. And you're totally right. That style doesn't work anymore. The minute that I would ask you guys to do that, you do it maybe twice down and back, and pretty much, you're going to walk out of the gym and not come back. It really, and I don't know if old school tough is what anybody really wants to aspire to be anymore. I think about when I'm watching Steve Kerr talk throughout this, I'm thinking about what it has to be like playing for him at Golden State. It seems like it would be a meeting of equals in the room rather than I'm the coach and I'm telling you what you have to do right now. And I think Phil Jackson might have been one of the pioneers in doing that because I felt like as much as I've learned about the triangle offense and what they were trying to accomplish on the court, so much of it, especially in handling Rodman, was about managing personalities and making sure the personalities fit together because the talent was clearly there, but making sure the personalities fit. And I think that really is, I guess, the model of what a modern day coach is supposed to do.
So do you think that leadership style, like obviously it's not around now, and seeing LeBron kind of take a different approach with his teammates, but he's not been as successful in the finals, do you think that's what really hurts him when he gets to the finals, or is it something else?
I think it's something else. I mean, let's think about, first of all, some of the final series that he lost. His first Cleveland team had no business being. They lost their way into the finals because the Celtics were hurt that year and they wound up getting through. I think they beat Orlando.
Something like that, I think,
with Dwight Howard on the way through. So I'll put a pause on that one. Losing to Golden State, there's no shame in that. There's no doubt about that. And Dirk Nowitzki went off. Losing to the great San Antonio teams, there's no shame in that. I think really the accomplishment is being in the finals 8 consecutive years rather than going, he only went 3-5 or whatever the record actually is for him when he's been in the finals. I don't think it's about leadership. I think it's about, more often than not, he's been on a team that just wasn't as talented as the guys he was competing against. And certainly his greatness is not in question. I mean, to carry that far. And they're going to build the statue outside of the arena in Cleveland at some point. It's going to be the blocking Iguodala at the in that series, and that's the signature moment of I am going to take over this entire series, and I am going to will this clearly not as talented team to a championship. So I think really it's not about his leadership style; it's around it's the cast of characters around him.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you definitely believe like MJ is above LeBron for you. I was curious, is there anything that LeBron could do for his career? Like, is it just winning now? If he wins 3 more rings, he gets 6 rings, he's above MJ for you, or is it just there's nothing?
I don't think there's anything he can do at this point in his career. And I think part of this might also be, and I don't want to get all existential on everyone right here, but there is a way that you think about the first girl you were in love with that you don't necessarily think about anybody after that in the same way. And MJ, I say that because MJ was the first legitimate, undisputed superstar, best player. All right, well, if we can shoot 65% from the field for the next 4 years and get a shooting percentage somewhere close to MJ, I might buy into that. But then we start to get into levels of greatness. And the Mount Rushmore conversation is always the one that's out there. In my lifetime, he's on it. In my lifetime, it's him, Kobe, and MJ. I saw Bird and Magic as they were on the downslope of their careers. I can appreciate exactly what they did. Iverson was phenomenal, and certainly there's this generation of guys. I mean, where does Tim Duncan fit? Where does Dirk fit? And just all these guys that are close. But I guess to say the short version of a long answer, it's MJ.
Yeah. See, like, same thing for us. Like, like you just said, we never saw MJ play, but this Last Dance kind of gave us a glimpse of what took place. But I couldn't say, like, MJ is better than LeBron because I've only seen LeBron play live.
Right.
Like, I've seen it throughout. Like, he's always been my favorite player. And I think the same thing you're saying is probably going to translate to me. Like, once he retires and, like, Zion or Luka Doncic or somebody comes up, I wouldn't be able to say, like, I saw LeBron's greatness live.
And
Exactly.
the further away you get from his career, the better he's going to be in your memory also.
Yeah.
Because you're going to remember the three against Orlando, the block against Golden State. You're not going to remember the night that he went 5 for 18 against New Jersey. You're not going to remember that stuff. So that's part of that about sports. I think it's one of these generational things.
So we settled the MJ LeBron debate. That was pretty easy to shut down. I think his leadership, like just thinking back again, his leadership is just something I just can't over. Like, it's amazing to watch, but I feel like being put into that system, being demanded 24/7 in the process, I think it's horrible. But then you see The Last Dance, everyone afterwards talking about, oh, now we know, like, what he wanted us. So I don't think they really enjoyed the process, but they knew what they got out of it, which was obviously 6 championships, which is amazing.
I'm looking at guys like Bill Wennington and go, oh, you got 3 rings, buddy. It's amazing. he was able to drag you along. To get through.
All right. So I think this was a great conversation we had. We appreciate you coming on for our first episode. I think this was awesome to have you on. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to hang with us.
Yeah, and just giving me the opportunity to talk about things that are relevant and important to what's going on in people's actual lives right now. Get a chance about some of the memories that we made together on the court, and obviously the shared memory that we have around sports.
Mm-hmm.
That for me is what I really would wish for this country to have going forward again. I want to watch baseball again. I want to watch golf again. I want to count on the fact that the NFL is going to play in September with actual people on the field and in the stands. Like, those are things that are kind of for me that I'm really missing right now. And I can only watch so many games from 20 years ago before they're all games from 20 years ago and I know who won before the game starts. That for me is what I think is going to be so important for a lot of people going forward, whether it's sports on TV or live, whether it's being able to go to a movie theater, whether it's being able to just not worry about this idea that if I go to Target and I see somebody, hey man, I can walk up to you guys and give you a hug. That I think a lot of us are missing right now, and sports plays such an important role in that. So
definitely,
it's been a lot of fun for me. Kind of sign out here from my underground bunker.
One more thing before you go, though.
Yeah.
I think you should make a Twitter account. Hear me out. I think you get a lot of followers. You post a lot of funny stuff. I would back it. I would even put it on mine. I'd be like, go follow this dude. He's hilarious. Can we get you to make a Twitter account?
Well, and obviously, that I hear.
There it is.
The flip phone finally died, and I had the flip phone and the race car are both gone now. I guess I have to perhaps consider what the next couple decades are going to look like here. Nothing in the immediate future on that front, but I've joked about that a lot myself. I said, I think I would be a fantastic follow.
Definitely. Not a doubt.
I don't have a tremendous amount of confidence in my ability to censor myself. One of the things I'm wondering about, because it's not going to simply be something that I do to push out information to teams or students. Like, if I've got it, I'm going to comment
personally. I'd back it.
I don't have perfect confidence in my ability to censor myself.
Hey, anything is possible in America, am I right? Anything is possible.
Somebody ought to make a bumper sticker,
All right, Joey B, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
I wish you guys the best of luck with this, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Coach. Stay safe.
Take care.
Stay safe, guys.